Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cross Examination. I would like to start with an apology for basically missing 2 weeks in a row. I could pretend that this was all by design in the sense that we are talking about Lent. So we weren't trying to starve you by design of our episodes, but disorganization, holidays came in the way. But nonetheless, thank you very much and welcome.
It was Carnival, so William,
We had a great excuse.
take a break and don't be so tough on yourself.
I know, but we set expectations to release an episode every week. So
yes, but during the working year, during the pastoral year. So okay, we all have holidays, but Lent, indeed. Did you know that Pope Leo calls this a joyful season?
it doesn't quite feel like that when I'm giving up my favorite little things for 40 days, but
What have you given up?
I have given up on my little friend called alcohol.
Can you imagine how you'll feel when Easter comes around?
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, all these calories you're missing out on. But I did a dry January, and I must say that was tough, especially going to Rio de Janeiro during that month. But you do get a sense of achievement when you make it and you don't break it. So very good. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. Well, we're barely a week in, so but that's probably the toughest week.
That's
right?
a tough week.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, Lent isn't only about giving up, but also about giving, of course. So doing something extra.
Almsgiving and praying, right?
There are three pillars. So prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Yes. So very good. Excellent. You're doing it.
Yeah, I am. How are you doing it? Are you giving up on something?
I'm giving up something, and I'd like to keep that private because that beautiful reading on Ash Wednesday said, don't shout it from the rooftops. You know, everything you do in hiding, God will reward you. And it's not about the reward, but it's about anointing your face and washing your face and looking happy and not miserable because you've given up something. So I'm much more inclined to do something extra. And that I will share with people. I'm visiting a few elderly people every week. And elderly is, of course, very relative because, of course, I'm 65 as well. So where do you put the ceiling? But it is actually fantastic. I get so much back because of that. And it's, it's amazing when you just take the initiative, how much joy that actually gives. And it was triggered by a commercial on the Dutch television from an organization called Sire, who...
As in the king, sire?
Yeah, it's spelled like that. But they always try to sort of look at the human side of things. And they say, if there's a newcomer in the neighborhood, ask him for a coffee. Or if there is a newcomer in your football team from a different culture, ask him to play with you. Or these very simple things, But also for the elderly, what does it cost to ring them up and say, how are you? So these things that make a neighborhood a little bit more cohesive and joined is good. So that's what I'm doing for that.
Lovely. As you probably heard now, I'd read in the title, we're talking about Lent, the desert journey in sorts. So we'll touch on a few things. For example, the number 40, why is it so significant? We'll see what other cultures and religions also do for fasting, because I think it's a pretty universal practice across many cultures and religions. And then we'll have some, as usual, some questions from listeners, any other thought bubbles that we might have. We also have in the background a special guest, Christian's with us. As we discussed earlier, we're going to try and move towards video more and more. So Christian is here to do a little pilot. So hopefully you'll see some shorts on our Instagram and other socials to then fully develop over time in a full-blown video YouTube podcast, whatever it may be. So quite exciting.
So, Christian, yes, thank you for doing that. And now that our listeners and viewers can see, we are in the youth attic here. So, Christian, if you give an overall view of this room and don't just focus on me, but it's a room with stuffed animals and a foosball table and...
It's a bit messy.
A bit messy.
As a youth room should be.
Yeah, but it has good acoustics, so that's why. And it has coffee, so we're good. And then Christian, of course, is our church cleaning team coordinator. So this room is spotless.
One of our many volunteers.
Thank you. Yes. And our social media team leader. Yeah. Yes. So
thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
Christian, do you have any questions before I dive in? Do you have any questions for Father Sjaak? I'm sure it'll be picked up here.
I would say, how do you prepare for Lent? I think this is the first time I'm doing it consciously, and for me, I wouldn't know where to start.
Mm.
I don't know tradition that good to, you know.
Yes. Well, how do you prepare for it? I kind of feel the Christmas decorations were just packed away, and then bam, it's Lent already. You know, I didn't prepare for it at all. It was like Ash Wednesday, really? You know, so thank God we have 40 days to get used to it.
Mm.
But I didn't prepare for it at all. I mean, it just, comes upon you. It's my 40th anniversary year, so it is my 40th Lent as a priest, which should actually grant me some bonus points, because I don't know how many days of Lent that is during my priesthood, about 1600 or so.
40 times 40?
Yeah, imagine. So
100,600 days?
Yeah, exactly. So if
assuming you upheld them all.
So that should, score me something. But anyway, I made up for it in other days of the year. So yes. But indeed, how do you prepare for it? To be quite honest, I didn't. It just...
Well, because it is your 40th and plus iteration. But for somebody that is maybe new to our faith or to the concept of fasting,
yes,
maybe let's take a step back and what is it about ultimately?
Yes,
why is that concept there?
The fasting, of course, goes back to Jesus' fasting in the desert to prepare for his pastoral ministry. And during that time of fasting, he was tempted in his faith by the devil. And yet he remained faithful to his mission and to his beliefs. So it is a period in which we sort of deny ourselves a few things. We also realize that less is more, but that by unpacking all the stuff that you do not need for your daily life, you actually create more time and space for things that are priorities. So I think it is a great time for reflection, for reconciliation, for healing. And in that, you bring to Easter a changed, a transformed person. And of course, the church gives us this beautiful journey with the candidates who are preparing for baptism, the adults who make Lent very special. It's like a big retreat in their lives. And during Holy Week, they will play a more prominent role in our community. But actually, them being attracted to our community by the faith of our parishioners and by their charity work and by their witness, they also start to give back quite a bit. They will show our community members, our parishioners, that, wow, baptism is something that doesn't just happen to you as a baby, but it's also a very conscious choice for an adult. And when you make that conscious choice, it's quite life-changing. It's you have to explain it to your peers, to your family. Why do you make that choice? It gives you a different identity, different values, a different sense of belonging to a worldwide family. What does all the architecture mean? The music, the spirituality, the values, where does it come from? It's a whole different journey to enter into the Catholic Church than you do when you enter into a Christian denomination like a Pentecostal church. There are different steps. You knock on the door, you ask for admission, your senses are being signed, also your feet, your hands, your mouth, so that you may walk in the truth of Christ and also receive Christ's message and put it into practice. And you may not only receive the word when your ears are anointed, but also speak it when you give witness in public. So the whole RCIA, they present their creed, they receive the Our Father.
The RCIA, just for the record, is the initiation for adult.
Yes, Rite of Christian Initiation for Adults. That is RCIA. This year we have about 20 adults who make that step, so it's a big crowd. And during Lent, they all come for a personal conversation. They intensify their bond with Christ and with the community, and that also somehow rejuvenates my own faith and my own commitment. It is quite a bit of extra work because you walk with these faith candidates, these catechumens. But on the other hand, when you see the community giving life and gaining life is something fantastic. That is really a Lenten journey that is, that culminates at Easter.
Hmm. Lent was often associated with spring, right? And rightly so, renewal, etc. I'm not sure if it was always like that through history, whether it also followed a lunar cycle, like with Ramadan Islam. Do you know whether that was always aligned to the spring, or has that been changed, over the years by, some kind of papal edict?
Yes, of course, the Gregorian calendar from Pope Gregory became the calendar for the liturgical year.
Mm-hmm.
And the liturgical year is very much based on the Western Hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
So Christmas is on the shortest day of the year because the light returns. So the birth of Christ is also the return to light in darkness. And then John's Gospel becomes a little bit more accurate. In the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and was God, and it was life, and it became light, and all that. So, but Lent, Lente in Dutch, it's the word spring.
Mm.
So after all the nature was dead during winter, it becomes back to blossom and flower again. So at Easter, everything is in full bloom. So yes, that totally was the reason for having Easter at that kind of natural cycle.
And it's always been at this time of the year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, always since Pope Gregory. Yes.
Since Pope Gregory.
Yes.
And prior to that, do you know what it was aligned to? Some lunar cycle or anything?
No, because Pentecost also changed. Sometime, well, in the beginning, Pentecost, of course, was 9 days after Easter. Now it's 50 days after Easter. So we have that. The liturgical cycle, we also express it in liturgical colors. So the vestments, they have different colors. So the dark always precedes the celebration of the light, and the dark is always shorter than the light. So during Advent, you have 4 weeks of Advent dressed in purple. And the third Advent Sunday, you dress in pink because the light of Christmas already shines forth. The feast is getting close. Same principle in Lent. You have the Laetare and Gaudete, so the joyful Sundays, because the darkness is really nearly over. So you have these 5 Sundays of Lent, and then 1 pink Sunday. And then you get into the color of red, the color of blood during the Good Friday, and white during Holy Thursday, because it's the institution of priesthood and the Eucharist. But the shorter time of darkness, 4 weeks during Advent, about 5 weeks during Lent, they go into a much longer time of light. So the Easter cycle is 50 days. It's from Easter to Pentecost, and that's all white. So the 50 days, they are longer than the 40 days of Lent, of course. And it's the same with Christmas. The Christmas cycle until the baptism of the Lord on the 2nd of February is longer than Advent. So that symbolism, that light always outshines the darkness. You see that in the liturgical colors as well. And of course, at the beginning of Lent, that beautiful custom of putting ashes on your forehead.
From the burned palms from Palm Sunday.
Yes. Yeah. So on Palm Sunday, a lot of people take a palm branch home. They put it behind the crucified Christ on the cross. But by the time, of course, Ash Wednesday comes, these palm branches are very dry. And normally we burn them to get the ashes for Palm Sunday or for Ash Wednesday. I did it once at the beginning when I came to this parish.
When you had the environment minister looking at the door?
These days we didn't. That was in '98, and it was in the Aloysius College. But the sprinklers came on. Can you imagine? So, and the smoke was just unbelievable.
I've never burnt any palms before, so it's very smoky.
You can imagine. I mean, we never do it again. So now outside, and at least a week before Ash Wednesday, because we have this buscus bush that we use in this country and in Belgium as well. But it's a horrible branch, actually. There's nothing to do with palm branches, of course. So in the Mediterranean, they have real palms, and it somehow burns differently than these.
Wow. Needs and must and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So we actually, well, we clean it up with quite a bit, because if you would use it just the way it is, people will have a scar on their forehead instead of a cross.
Just to way back in what you were highlighting in terms of historically and the dates and the length, could you also tie it back to Carnival? Carnevale.
Yes.
Could you join
Yes.
those dots?
There is always an explosion of the excess before you have to sort of tone it down a bit. So just before the law sort of imposes a time of moderation, people want to make the most of their freedom that they still have before it happens. So yes, in carnival countries, the desires of the flesh, the carne, in carnavale, is expressed. And here in the Netherlands, we have this, and also in Germany, actually, there is this custom of carnival masses. So in the Cathedral of 's-Hertogenbosch and in Roermond.
All the south of Catholic
they have
Holland.
the last Sunday before Lent, they have a mass with a lot of jokes, and everybody is dressed up. And there is a lot of fun and laughter, but it's also, in laughter, there is a lot of recognizing as well, of course. So jokes always... if it's a good joke, they also reveal an underlying truth.
All good jokes have a truth in them.
Have a truth in them. So laughing is recognizing. So there is, a profound message underneath as well. And that's the beautiful task of Carnival. You have the gesture and the king, the joker and the king, and he was able to tell the king a truth in such a way that the public opinion got closer to the king, even though the public was shut up very much in authoritarian monarchies, of course. So yes, it's very necessary to have that prophetic voice, or that voice of truth, even through a bit of fun, comedy, cabaret.
Well, comedians are often, seen as a reflection of society, right? Because they hold up a mirror, but in a way that is easier to look in the mirror, through humor.
Exactly. So, and of course, it can go into many directions, but that is very much the idea of Carnival. And when you see it in the South and also in Rio de Janeiro, I always found, yes, of course, there are excesses, but the vast majority just has good, clean fun, and they meet each other. They have, they put on a mask. They can be different, put on a different identity. But the homeless and the mayor are dancing side by side. There is no more status. There is no more, no more gap between them. And I think that proximity allows people to get closer to someone that normal life doesn't allow. So it's. I'm very fond of it. So, even though I'm West Frisian, I come from the north, but we have...
You know where to go for.
Yeah,
for a good party. Just to pause a little bit on the length, you alluded to it, 50 days, 40 days, but let's just pause on the 40 days. And I know it's a little bit longer sometimes, but what is, there's so many references of the 40 days, whether it's, Noah's flood, Moses on the mountain, the Israelites in the desert. It's just such a recurring thing. What is maybe in the particular context of Lent, the 40 days? Why 40? What is it about?
Yeah, the number 40, well, this is a bit of a cliffhanger, because I'm actually in the middle of finishing my book, and the number 40 is a special chapter in that book. So if I give it away now, then you won't buy the book anymore. So we will do a chapter on 40, and the title of the book is called Humor, Humus, and Humility, the three words of Pope Francis. Mm-hmm. So sense of humor, hello Carnival, and of course humor, humus, 2 feet on the ground, and be self-confident, but don't be arrogant. But we start with the number 40, and why that is so important. But yes, all the references you just gave, 40 years in the desert, imagine people after 40 years. The reading this Sunday is about that, actually. And Moses said, we will make this nation great again. Doesn't that sound familiar nowadays? So the sermon is on that. So another cliffhanger, actually.
Tune in, Parish.nl at 10 a.m.
Yes,
CET.
indeed. We will make this nation great again. But it took Moses 40 years for people to realize that it's not only the leader who will do it for us, but we will have to do it ourselves. So that idea of 12 tribes having to come together without cutting off one of the 12 tribes was a monumental task, because this is such a huge crowd that even the United Nations and the EU nowadays don't even manage to achieve, to keep 12 countries together with the same opinion. So we say we will make this nation great again. I said, no, it is not just one nation, but it's 12 tribes, meaning we will make this planet great again.
Before we wade into politics, let's go back to the topic at hand here, which is Lent. So back maybe a little bit to Christian's question at the very beginning. How does one prepare? I'm currently doing as well to adhere to the praying part of it as well. Is I've downloaded this Hallow app. I highly recommend it. Praying with Mark Wahlberg and Chris Pratt is a very strange thing, but it helps. And in that, one prayer came up a lot, and it was, Dear Lord, empty me, fill me, use me. And I thought that was very short and very explanatory in terms of this is what Lent is about, is you're trying to emptying yourself of your own personal, well, I'll let you fill it in. You're the priest.
The beautiful idea of the self-emptying is called kenosis in Greek.
It's also a medical term, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. But then that can... Anyway, that can be very graphic. Let's not go there. But the idea of kenosis is indeed the rid yourself of any sort of obstacle so that God can enter your life.
Can I reduce it to the ego? That you reduce your ego, to put in psychological terms almost?
There is much more than ego. It has to do with overconsumption, materialism.
Which is driven by
clutter
ego.
And... well, yes, but also by trauma sometimes, by people are victims of so many circumstances. So the self-emptying doesn't totally mean that you lose yourself, that you lose your identity.
No, that's not what I meant.
That you, get rid of unnecessary baggage, whether it's physical, emotional, material, or so. Creating silence and creating, declutter your life is a very healthy concept. So yes, I love that mantra. I also, during Lent, love the practice of the Stations of the Cross. So every Friday and Sunday before the evening Mass, people gather here for the Stations of the Cross. And there are, of course, an enormous amount of liturgies around the Stations of the Cross. But the 14 stages that we have, they somehow take you through the whole passion, the suffering, and the death and resurrection of Christ. And that was a beautiful addition that Pope John Paul II added to the Stations of the Cross. It was the 14th station, the Station of the Resurrection. And it's because it doesn't end in the grave. So that placing Jesus in the grave is not the.
So he changed that?
Yes, he added the.
So before John Paul II,
there was no resurrection station to the Stations of the Cross.
That sounds like an oversight, quote unquote. How?
Well, yeah, but look at most Catholic churches. They place the crucifix in the center of the church. Mm-hmm. So our focus is very much on Good Friday, on the crucifixion. But of course, the whole point of Good Friday is Easter Sunday,
right?
Is the resurrection. Otherwise, the cross is just an electric chair, an instrument of torture. So the awareness that, yes, it is a Good Friday and not a terrible Friday, because God protested against the killing of his son by raising him from the dead. Human violence didn't have the last word. It couldn't destroy goodness. So yes, that's and the stages of the cross. There are so many different ways of doing it, and of course, in Rome, the Pope goes to the Colosseum, and it's out on the street, and it's at important moments and sites of martyrdom. And that is where, they go back because, the church is built on the blood of the martyrs, not only on the blood of Christ, but all these people that have given their lives. Hence also the color of red, of course, in the liturgy. But the stages of the cross is a complete identification with the crucified, risen ones in our society, because people carry so many crosses on their shoulders, of course. So to sort of bring the crucifixion and the passion story back into reality of here and now, the passion does that in a beautiful way. But we have now about 50 years already in Holland. Every Wednesday during Holy Week, I mean, tens of thousands of people gather for the story of the Passion in a very contemporary way, with modern pop songs and all that, but everything related to the story of the suffering, death, and the resurrection of Christ. So the way of the cross is really, my way of walking with Christ, and Christ's way of walking with me in my life story, my challenges, my crosses, and how you look for ways of victory over evil, of breaking through darkness. So the stages of the cross, I think, is amazing. And on Good Friday, when we pray them here in church, and at the death of Christ, everybody kneels on the floor when we go through the galleries of the church. It's amazing. It's like you go back to basics. Everybody is in silence on the floor of the church, not in the pews, but in the corridors. And you lower yourself with Christ in order to rise again with him. So it's a very powerful symbolism. Also for the ordination of priests, that happen when you are ordained, you lie flat on the floor, and the litany of saints is sung over the candidate. And on Good Friday, for the veneration of the cross, the priest lies down flat on the floor, first in silence, and then you rise, and then you glorify the cross.
I had no idea.
Okay. That's, yes, you die to your old lifestyle, and you rise in the status of...
Can I'm sure you remember that moment when you went...
Very clearly.
Was it a very hollow moment? Can you walk us through it for yourself?
It's a moment of utter loneliness, and at the same time being carried in that loneliness by hundreds of voices who are with you. You are dark, you are shut off, you literally feel the cold stone floor, but everybody somehow carries you in the history of the church with all the saints. Saint Joseph, pray for us. Saint Francis, pray for us. And then when that is over, you place your hands in the hands of the bishop, and then he anoints your hands, and then it's a very you have to come from zero, from emptiness, in order to qualify for your participation in the mystery of Christ's fullness. So it's a beautiful...
Thank you for sharing that private moment. And the loneliness, if I may, is the loneliness coming from the life that you're leaving behind?
No, the fact that there is nobody else but you, like you come into the world naked and you die alone. There is nobody else but you that can in the end establish this relationship with Christ and make that choice.
It's a good loneliness almost.
It's a good, absolutely. But you feel you are alone, and yet carried by a tremendous community support. But yes, it is your personal, unique life, vocation, decision, answer. And it's scary because I remember very well the first time that I had to say Mass. I was afraid of making mistakes, and I was afraid of my friends who were sitting in the first pews and sort of making faces and come on, you can do it. And of course, But it's not only about the formula, but it's also about the vastness of the trust that is invested in you. From this day forward, as a 26-year-old, you have to listen to confessions of really serious people who come with big issues, and you have no life experience yet. Who
Must
are
be
you?
very overwhelming.
It is very lonely, and that beautiful idea of, okay, it's not me, it's Christ who carries me. Yeah. Also in the Eucharist, it's not me who celebrates the Eucharist, it's Christ celebrating through us. The Eucharist is a con-celebration. It's not just the priest who celebrates it. And it's a thanksgiving also. It's not only a sacrifice. So you have to keep that in balance. But yes, the full immersion. In our church, the baptism font, which is used as the 15 station, is a little bit lower than the floor of the church.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly in baptism, you die with Christ so that you rise with him to a new level of awareness, of conscience, of community life. You rise with Christ again. And when, for instance, at the beginning of a funeral, we always welcome the coffin at the back of the door with that blessing of the water of baptism. We said, in baptism, you lived with Christ, you died with Christ, so that you can rise with him to everlasting life. And then you bless the body. But that moment of, going down into the tomb and then being raised up again is, the baptism font is both the womb of the church, and the altar is the tomb of the church. But they keep each other in balance. And the beautiful, we'll come to the podcast on Holy Week, and on the Triduum, but there is a beautiful moment in the Easter Vigil where God is wedded to earth, or Christ takes the church as his bride, and there is a fertility rite that happens during the Easter Vigil. Very basic anthropological fertility rite. We'll come to that in our next podcast.
Another hook.
Yes.
Just as a briefly, because you reminded me, talking about your ordination, about the story you told in our episode about anointing of the sick. Because I believe your first anointing of the sick was, the story with your principal from back then. So it's just, it really resonates in how, as a 26-year-old, you go to, somebody has so much more life experience. It must be so intimidating and so gratifying as well, and humbling as well. And so, if you want to learn a little bit more, hear a bit more, I recommend you go back to anointing of the sick or ordination. We talked about it as well in that episode.
But that Lenten journey is that resurrection journey, and that is why it is a joyful season. You make a few sacrifices, or you choose a few priorities. But it brings you to Easter as a different person, as a changed person. You have actually something to offer in the offertory procession of Easter that shows a little bit of new life, of resurrection in this world. And we can bring so much to the table at Easter as our offering. And I don't mean that in the material way. But when you come as a transformed person because you feel that you have overcome a certain dark area in your life, or you made a sacrifice that makes you freer, more joyful, more in line with who you want to be. If you are proud of yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, that's great. You become more confident. And the word confident comes from confedere, with faith. You become more faith-filled in yourself and in your values and what you can achieve in a better world. So,
So on that, because, I was going to go in different cultures, and obviously to this year, it coincides with Ramadan, our fasting. Ramadan observes quite strict, sundown to sunrise to sundown, no food, no drink, etc. Our way of doing it over time has evolved, obviously, but feels more, customized, in the sense that you just pick and choose something. But to tie it back to what you just said, you try and give up something that is, and I'm going to use air quotes here, bad for you. So for one, it could be TikTok. For the other, it could be alcohol in my case, or chocolate, or whatever. So what would you tell, whether it's kids or people, again, how to choose what you give up? What do you give up?
Well, again, I'm not a big fan of giving up things like chocolate or something like that, because then at Easter we have loads of it again, and but the idea that we make a little bit of a sacrifice, or we do something extra in order to improve the quality of life, I think is a healthier approach.
So you would focus more on the prayer aspect and the almsgiving aspect?
Yeah, personally, I would, but that's a very personal
No,
choice.
that's why I'm asking, yeah.
I can also see very much the point of a more strict approach, but I think my time in Brazil taught me that I worked with very poor people who were deprived of everything already. Do you think they had money to buy meat every day? No way. So am I going to tell them you have to give up this or that? And life deprived them of so much already. Now I'm a pastor in a very privileged parish and part of the world. So yes, the giving up is sensible, right? Because we have far too much.
To remind ourselves that we do have too much.
Yes, absolutely. But then, yeah, how much does it change us when we immediately go back to the same routine after Easter? I mean, some people ask me, how much has COVID changed us? We were denied social interaction and freedom and everything, and we lost many people in the meantime for a few years. But has it changed us as a society, as people? I wonder what the effect of that giving up or that. For me, it has to be a spiritual choice and also a joyful choice. So if you make a decision, make a commitment for Lent, stick to it. So the fidelity to your commitment is important, whatever that choice may be. And secondly, it has to have some positive impact, not just on you, but on the world or on people around you.
Concentric circles, where you start small with your family, your friends, your community.
Yes. My giving up chocolate does not make your family any bigger, any better. So if I much rather teach children in the first communion program or the confirmation program, make a choice that makes you proud of who you are. And that's sort of, it can be helping your mom with small chores or doing some shopping or
Alice, if you're listening, so talk to my daughter.
But it is in the meeting each other in the doing of good that you actually feel better about you, about society, about your allies that you choose to do it with. That is kind of my type of fasting. When I go back to the beautiful reading on Ash Wednesday, there you have the whole path. I don't need your sacrifices. I don't need your holocausts, but feed the poor, clothe the naked. That sort of fasting is a fasting that pleases.
Give back. It's spirit. That's the filling me part, right? In the mantra, in the prayer. Yeah.
So I think so. Yeah, that's a more biblical than.
So you mentioned that commitment, commit to it. Okay, say day 13, something happens, whatever it may be, and you break your fast. What's the lesson here? What are you going to hell? Of course not. But what would you tell somebody who failed in their attempt?
Catholics are so lucky because we have 40 days of fasting, but you've done your numbers. So, in fact, the fast is only 6 days a week because Sunday is a mini Easter. So we do not fast on Sundays. Also, there are a few feast days that give you
a free pass.
An exemption. Yeah. So for the Irish on St. Patrick, hello, of course they celebrate,
Wait, hang on.
Yes.
Are you saying that St. Patrick's Day, for example, which is March 11th, March 14th?
17th.
Oh, shame on me. We might have to edit this out.
St. Joseph 19.
Yeah, but hang on, because then I could pick any saint to kind of invoke as an exemption or come on.
Well, in fact, the feast days are feast days. And that is why fasting is so doable. It is not meant to make you feel miserable, I went to a Trappist monastery once during my retreat, during my formation in Zundert. And they brew beer there as well, like they do in Tilburg. A lot of Trappist
Yes,
monasteries.
well, there's 7 of them technically. But go on.
And anyway, one brother was painting the walls from a huge hall. And he said, yeah, when I look back at my painting, the walls don't look very sharp because I stopped at every feast day. So then he pointed out, I stopped there and I stopped there. So you could see all these sort of, that he left it to dry and then started again. You could see the difference on the wall. He said, isn't that beautiful? So I thought, if you have a sense of humor about your fasting, but you still have the humility and your feet on the ground, you know what you do it for. It's not the quantity that counts, it's the quality that counts, So give yourself a break. But make this a joyful season and make your commitment count in such a way that you come to Easter as a changed person. If you celebrate a moment, then don't let your personal sacrifice stand in the way of the happiness of that moment.
Okay, that kind of right, because I was going to push back a little bit on, you said don't eat, but fasting is about sacrifice, right? Just like he sacrificed himself. And with sacrifice comes suffering, whether you like it or not. So
yes, but are you suffering because you don't drink
No.
alcohol? Exactly. Point take. So yes, I admire it, and it's good to drink less. I also found it purifying, and it puts on less calories and all that. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't change us fundamentally as a person. Go back to what really matters, and make that difference. So anyway, all the listeners who make sacrifices for Lent, by all means. But Sunday is no fast day, so they don't count. When you count 40 days of Lent, all the Sundays are distracted from that.
Happy days. I was not aware. I'll go and get my bottle of
Yeah, sure. Because from Ash Wednesday to Easter is about 46 days. So you take the Sundays out of it because they are mini Easters. And also, Holy Thursday officially counts as a fast day, but it's a feast day. We use white. It's the day of the institution of priesthood. All the priests in the diocese, if you have a good diocese at least, they are invited for a drink and a little bit of a renewal of their promises.
Dear Diocese of Rotterdam, if you're listening.
Yes, indeed. So it will be nice. But you celebrate the renewal of your priestly vows, and it's the day of the institution of priesthood. So there is a reason for celebration.
You mentioned that we're lucky as Catholics.
We are. And that is exactly why.
And you clearly explained
that
why.
Rigidity, we do not.
So it gives me the nice segue or pivot to other religious practices or cultural practices that center around fasting and the concept of fasting. Anything that you'd like to bring up or that comes to mind when you think about other cultures and what they might do?
Two things. First of all, this year, Ash Wednesday was exactly the same day as the start of Ramadan. Ramadan is 1 month, and they do the whole month, of course. So it ends on the feast of Saint Joseph this year, the 19th of March. But the Muslims, I have a very good Muslim friend who is living at my house at the moment. And he's painting somebody's house, but I hear him leave at 7 o'clock in the morning without breakfast, and he does a heavy job. I'm painting ceilings.
He doesn't eat before sunrise?
No, because it's from 4 o'clock in the morning till
sunrise, until sundown.
Yes, but there is a clock that gives exactly the hours.
He follows the one that's associated to Mecca, I believe.
Probably,
right?
yes.
Yeah,
but anyway, so it's 6:15 that he starts to eat and drink again. So no water, no food, and I really admire him. that he's actually able and completely joyful. No complaints.
He does not get hungry, as they say.
Oh, he gets very hungry, but
no, hungry, as in angry because you're hungry.
No, not Andres, no. But he, I admire it. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm quite honest. I need my coffee before I start today. But it's a very different way of fasting. Absolutely. And of course, we have, in the Catholic Church, we also have certain movements who really preserve. The hermits, for example, they preserve very strict fasting rules.
Do they break fast on Sunday? I'm assuming they wouldn't.
Yeah, if they're good Catholics. Yes, definitely. But and they have the Eucharist probably, so you do eat bread and you can drink a sip of wine as well. So yes, happy days. But the Ramadan this year was so beautiful because we were with about 750 people receiving ashes in church, and at the same time there was a whole group of Muslims preparing in our kitchen food for a number of teenagers in different refugee shelters who got food prepared in our parish by all these Muslims and other parishioners together to break their fast in their first iftar meal. And I think that was fantastic, that all these things happen under the same roof in a Christian community where people have different ways of fasting. And of course, the iftar meals are very festive meals. They get together and they really, and they invite.
I've had the luck to participate in one of them.
Yeah,
it's great. So, great atmosphere.
Yes, absolutely. It's like a bit of a Christmas dinner every night. So that's a really nice way of doing it. And secondly, the days of fasting, it's 30 days in Ramadan. For us, it's 40 days. But of course, you can't compare the two styles of fasting because, we don't have that rigidity.
No.
And then for the Muslims, that's sacred.
So you mentioned I admired it. Is it the discipline that you admire? Is it the spiritual discipline? What do you admire about it?
I don't know how spiritual it is, because we see Muslims in a very secular country here in Holland, of course. So when I walk home, I see a lot of men coming out of the mosque, that's for sure. But I also see a lot of teenagers here who do not go to the mosques, but who do keep their fast. So they identify themselves very clearly. Well, as we Catholics are the same thing, of course. They identify themselves very clearly as Muslim, or as Christian, and we may carry a cross or we may do a fast, but we don't have, for a lot of people, they don't have the religious or spiritual practice that goes with it, not in an organized institution, perhaps in their personal faith. Yes, I can't judge that, but that is something very personal. That is.
But what is the admiration part? What do you?
Well, when I see a Muslim sticking to that fast and going to the hunger and to that sacrifice and doing that for 30 days, I quite admire that commitment.
The discipline that comes with
discipline.
Yeah.
I do not understand the rigidity of it. If you live in a hot country in the desert and you can't drink water.
No, for what the little bit I know, there are exemptions. So, for example, I know that professional athletes are exempt by their spiritual leaders, etc. So there are exemptions for children as well as different rules, etc. So if you're really in good health and your health is not in danger, then that applies. But there are exemptions.
And we have that too. If you travel, if you're pregnant, if you are under or above a certain age, I mean there are, and you can recuperate Ramadan days as well. So if you skip a day, you can do it later after.
Really?
Yes, that's also a very nice practice. So if you really cave in, then you can pay back another day, which is really nice.
There's still people that have months outstanding over the years.
I think so. Yes.
Any other traditions that you'd like to discuss? You know, obviously in Judaism there's Yom Kippur. I think is probably the one that would come to mind. Any thoughts on Yom Kippur?
No, not really. No.
Okay. But
I do have, I've been to these receptions where no religious affiliation may be sort of outspoken anymore. So the Happy Holidays receptions. So definitely no longer Christmas, definitely no longer Hanukkah. So you have the Christmas tree and the menorah and everything sort of blending into one big happy holiday. I kind of think, come on, Christmas is Christmas, Ramadan is Ramadan. Beautiful, go for it, make it count, and give witness of what you believe in and how that makes the world a better place. I mean, the happy holidays come from happy holy days. So yes, there is a religious reasons for these holidays.
fasting?
Well, of course,
Lent.
in the Catholic Church, we also have this tradition that you fast before you receive communion. And in some cultures, that was 24 hours. So if you went to Mass every day, tough luck. I mean, it was, but then they said, well, it's an hour before going to Mass. And then is it 1 hour before receiving communion, or is it 1 hour before going to Mass? But yeah, so the fasting somehow, that self-denial or sacrifice, yeah, is again a bit receiving the Eucharist. If you receive the body of Christ, you have to be in a state of grace. You have to be empty to be ready to receive Him. I would say an hour before receiving communion is fine. So if you get in the car by going to Mass, don't you show bubble gum during Mass, please, and stick it under the pew, because you are supposed to fast. So, and here we are with the coordinator of the church cleaning team. He knows what that means. So please refrain from anything, munching anything in church before you go to Mass. Yeah.
To finish, maybe on a communal note, community note, and I like to hammer on the fact that I think religion is trending upwards of the search for spiritual meaning. You mentioned RCIA. We have 20 people this year, which is, I think, double what we had last year. It reflects a trend across, many countries. I think in France as well, there's a huge increase. And to put it in through a lens, pardon the pun, apparently Google Trends show that searches for what to give up for Lent spike higher than New Year's kind of resolution searches. I thought that was really nice and interesting and kind of good to hear. And also the power of almsgiving. Charitable, apparently, donations increased by 10 to 15% during Lenten season. So it's demonstrably working.
Well, and here we have to introduce our Lenten campaigns.
Do you want to talk about why we're doing it this year?
No. That is completely beside the point. But I think it's a beautiful idea within the church that has certainly sort of got a lot of support in the last 40, 50 years. That during Lent, there is a solidarity campaign. And these campaigns, they have an awful lot to do with, if you give up something, chocolate or whatever it is, then don't just put your chocolate in a tin, but the money you save on giving up something, you give that to a certain solidarity campaign, a charity. But also, every year we choose something specifically in the parish or on a national level. You have the Advent and Lenten campaigns. I remember once our parish raised money for building homes in the Philippines. And these homes are very simple. They cost about 1,000 euros to build. I mean, very, very simple homes. But we got that project matched by the government, and the government paid another 12 homes. So in fact, we could build 25 homes, and these homes were sort of built by a group of couples. They call them couples for Christ, but they wanted these married couples to give back a little bit to society. So they were looking for networks that could help them in achieve something for the poor. And we went with a group of parishioners to the Philippines to also build these homes for a few days, together with the ambassador from the Philippines. He was also cementing bricks and all that together with us. And I really remember that as something, yes, this is a Lenten campaign. And in fact, the meals for the homeless that we do now every 2 weeks, we cook for about 150 homeless people here in The Hague. And thousands of meals every year. And during COVID, we practically were the community that fed a lot of homeless on the street, is a result of one of our Lenten campaigns. That is how the street pastoral work started. So these Lenten campaigns are a tremendous way of giving back. So it's not just about giving up, but it is in giving that you receive.
That's definitely my takeaway from my conversation with you on this, is that maybe in my personal case, again, I was maybe a bit too focused on what should I give up to honor the sacrifice that he made. But if anything, and I'm addressing this to myself and anybody listening, don't be counterproductive. If you become hangry and kind of start lashing out, we're doing it wrong, it really should focus more about how can we help others through maybe fasting, etc. So
and every Sunday is a little Easter.
And then remember, people, we're all get a free pass on Sunday.
Exactly.
Father Sjaak, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
today again. Christian, thank you for doing all the video editing. Hopefully we'll see something on our social soon. Thank you very much, and talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.